So I've got a question for you. Do you think that Christians should dance on non-Christians' graves? Let's talk about it. Is happening, people of the interwebs? It's Todd Frazier, and we are back with another episode of the Jesus and Coffee Show. So hopefully you're really you're doing okay. It really seems to me like, I don't know if like it's just 2020. You know what? I do know it's 2020, but things just, it keeps rolling. There's just one thing after another, and it seems like every single thing gets hyper politicized, and there is an obvious one side versus the other side in everything that's happening. And another thing happened this past weekend that has done exactly that and exasperated all kinds of people on both sides. And there's something specifically about this incident that I want to talk about related to how Christians should respond to some of these things. But before we get into that, I want to let you know, we just had an episode. If you haven't checked it out yet, my friend Jen Jean came on and she talked about her story. It's a fascinating story about how she came up as a preacher's kid, and then she really tried to shut God out for a while, and then ultimately I'll let her finish the story for you. But it's a good ending. But spoiler alert, we actually talk about the secret of Santa Claus. So, I mean, if you're not ready for that, then you shouldn't watch or listen to it. But you can check it out, and if you haven't, appreciate it if you do. Also, if you have any questions or comments or things that you'd like us to talk about, comment below or send us a message. You can email us, jesusandcoffeepodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment wherever you're watching or listening to this. All right, so back to the question that we started with. Should Christians dance on the graves? And I don't mean like literally. I don't mean like you should have a dance party on graves of non-Christians. But should Christians celebrate the death of non-Christians? And the incident that I'm talking about is, you may already know what I'm going to be talking about, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, just passed away this last weekend. And there's a lot of different things that this brings up, especially politically. There's so many things. If you've been following all the politics leading up to this election year, which if you haven't, I'd love to know how you've done that. How have you not paid attention? You must just, well, you're probably not watching this because you're probably not on the internet. You're probably not on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or reading the news or watching cable news, or you probably don't have internet at all. So anyways, because the fight that's happening right now, especially Republicans versus Democrats in this election year, and everything that's built up to this now with Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing, that leaves an empty seat on the Supreme Court. And just to get into the politics for just a second to see why everybody's so hyper politicized about it is Donald Trump still being president, no matter who wins, still is allowed to nominate the Supreme Court justice to fill her seat, and there is a Republican-held Senate, so feasibly they could get a new Supreme Court justice confirmed before the election, or at least before the end of his term, and that would then be something that obviously the Democrats do not want. The other side's not interested in that, so it's a big fight back and forth. But I want to get to the specifics about the reactions to the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a Democrat, and she did things for the women's movement and for standing up for the rights of minorities, which is fantastic. She also supported abortion. So depending on where you land, you either think Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a phenomenal human being and did amazing things for America, or you pretty much stand on the other side where she upheld laws and things that were detrimental to the American society and really is the cause of a lot of evil, and people have put that on her. And I think regardless of all of that, if we can look at this and say a human life was lost. Now, I know, especially with coronavirus happening, there's a lot of human lives that are being lost. There are a lot of people that are dying right now. And this is a high-profile case where somebody in the spotlight has passed away, and there are a lot of feelings one way or the other. You don't get a lot of lukewarm in the middle, man, I just feel sorry that somebody passed away. Everything is either she was a hero and she should be celebrated, or she was evil and we need to celebrate that she's gone. So, and it's interesting to me that we just 2 episodes ago were talking about Matthew 7:1, where it says how you judge others is how you're going to be judged. And there is some I'm going to call them extremist right leaning Christians that have come out, and there's an article here that talks about some of the things that these Christians are saying about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, I doubt any of these people actually knew her. I doubt any of these people ever experienced her one-on-one. They got whatever the media gave them or whoever they followed told them their opinion about her, and you have her court standing. So there is something to be said for there are some facts that they're going off of. But this is pure, unadulterated, opinion-based slander, really, about a human being, one of God's creation. Whether or not you agree with what she did or didn't do, as Christians, we need to be careful about how we react to it. And I want to read you some of these reactions that Christians are saying about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. So one of the things, the title of this article is "Right-Wing Christians Praise the Lord for Death of Murdering Hag Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was wicked and destructive." I mean, I don't care really who you are or what you've done, but to come after a person who's not with us any longer and they're getting dealt with on whatever judgment they're dealing with on the other side. We don't know exactly what's going on there. Based on the fruit that we can see for her, I don't believe she was a Christian. But to come out and just basically dance on her grave, I don't feel good about that. I don't feel like that's something as Christians that's showing Christ to others. There's a verse here in 1 Thessalonians that I wanted to read real quick. So here in 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13, it says, "Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind, who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him." So that's just saying, hey, as Christians, we are sad that people are gone, but we aren't supposed to mourn if we knew they were a Christian, because we know that Jesus is going to, that right here it says, God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him, and talking about the second resurrection and all that stuff. So dealing with this situation as Christians, when we have a Christian family member or friend that has passed away, we are sad because they're gone. As a matter of fact, in the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. What it's referring to was Jesus' reaction to his friend Lazarus being dead. Now, he raises him from the dead after he cries about it, but Jesus was legitimately emotionally saddened that somebody had passed away. Now, I'm not equating Ruth Bader Ginsburg to Lazarus here. Not at all. Don't get me confused. But the emotion that we should feel when another human being, especially if they are not a Christian, and we have this burden that says we are supposed to spread the gospel and we're supposed to share Christ and we're supposed to show love to others regardless of how they treat us, we need to be really, really careful about how we respond to others that we disagree with or we didn't like how they live their life, or whatever reasoning you have for saying that a murderous hag is dead. I mean, really? That doesn't sound like anything Jesus would say in any of these situations at all. So when I look at this and I say, somebody who is a political figure that has a lot of things in her past and in her present that she stood for that I personally disagree with, and disagree with pretty strongly in a lot of cases, she still was a human being. There still was a life lost. And there is family connected to her that is seeing these responses. And how do you think a family of a person who's just died, who they've got to be sad, they've got to be torn up inside because they lost their grandma, they lost their mom, they lost their potentially great grandma in this case, their aunt, whatever, their friend. There is an emotion. They're hurting. And if they're seeing Christians calling her a murderous hag and essentially celebrating her death, what kind of a witness is that to those people who are still around? How does that help our witness to be able to go to these people that may need Jesus, they may need to hear the gospel, and to say, you know what, I'd like to share with you about Jesus. And they say, aren't you the person who said the thing about my fill in the blank person that was so bad? Why would I ever want to be like you? Why is that ever something that I would want to reflect in my life, is how you're responding to that person? And that's what you're doing when you come out in celebration of somebody that you didn't agree with, that you feel did evil in the world, but yet you come out and you condemn them. Remember, Matthew 7, you're judged how you judge others. You have to be careful. We as Christians, we're setting an example. We're supposed to be leading the charge of showing love and showing compassion. Jesus, in his entire ministry, his whole purpose was to come to save the lost. He talked in parables and in reality about Samaritans and with Samaritans. He talked to women, Jew and Gentile, which was not allowed. It was not something that happened in the Jewish tradition. He went against all that to reach out to people that you weren't supposed to be around. He ate with tax collectors and drunkards and sinners. He hung out with the people that the Pharisees wouldn't be caught dead with. Jesus was an example of how to live life in a way that is attractive to others. And this is not attractive. I'm sorry. I don't know who these people are that have said this, but if that's something that you've said, or if you've shared some of those things on social media, I think you need to think about that. I think you need to look in your heart and you need to say, should I have done that? Should I have said that? Now, I've said things and done things in my heart and outwardly that I'm not proud of, that I shouldn't do, that I needed to ask forgiveness for. We all make mistakes. That's the great thing about all this that we read in the Bible about Jesus is grace. You can screw up, because you will, and then you can be forgiven. You can be forgiven. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg could have been forgiven on her deathbed. We don't know. I didn't hear anything about it. I don't know any evidence about it. However, it could have happened. It could have happened. Somebody could have ministered to her in the last moments of her life, and she could have realized that she needed Jesus as her savior. She could have. I don't know. I wasn't there. There's no story about that. Everything's being hyper politicized, and the humanity is just being taken right off the table. And that's happening across the board with everything that we're seeing right now in media, in movies, in reality. Humanity isn't as important to people as it should be. We are all creations made in the image of God. And our purpose here is to love one another and to share the good news, the gospel, the story of Jesus with others. And inside of that, we have to be careful of our witness and how we respond to others. And in circumstances like this, we have to be extremely careful because everybody's watching and they're looking and they're going over it with a fine-tooth comb. And especially right now in cancel culture, when it's rampant, where if you ever said or say anything that's borderline questionable and they want to get rid of you, they will. You get canceled. You'll be done. And your witness then from that point forward will be really hard to get back for those people that are following this cancel culture feel. What is your witness when you speak ill of the dead, or if you speak bad about others, or even just in life? We have to be careful of how we respond. We have to be outwardly showing what Jesus has done internally. Something that in the book, The Celebration of Disciplines, I did that years ago, and it was it was a fantastic study. And actually, it was the first time that I ever fasted, and it blew my mind, this whole study. So if you hadn't done it or read it, I encourage you to do that. But it talked about the natural outflow of what's inside of you is what should be the fruit of your faith. There's other things that are fruit, but the initial fruit, the instant fruit that you should be able to see is what naturally comes out of you as you're living your life, as you're talking to your friends, as you're posting on social media, as you're making videos on the internet. Whatever it is that you're doing, what's the natural outflow? Is it anger? Is it resentment? Is it bitterness? Is it fear? Is it joy? Is it love? Is it peace? Is it kindness? Is it the fruits of the Spirit? Is that what's coming out of you? This does not sound like fruits of the Spirit. You guys, we have to be vigilant in this, and we have to be consistent. We're going to screw up, yes, but we have to be consistent in remembering that everything that we do and say is a reflection of our faith. And I want to encourage you guys, you may not agree with people. As a matter of fact, you're not going to agree with people. We can't. I had a great conversation with a friend/client the other day here in my office, and we're on opposite sides of the spectrum. Okay? I'm on the conservative side. He's on the liberal side. However, we were able to come to a very, very solid agreement to say that no violence and no death should be happening in response to disagreement. Like everything that's happening, the rioting and the violence across the board, that's not okay. Neither of us agree that it's okay. And we need to talk about that. We need to be upfront. We need to be honest, and we need to have conversations with others. And it needs to be that natural outflow. What's your natural outflow? What's coming out of you naturally? And if it's not love, joy, peace, kindness, perseverance, all of the fruits of the Spirit, then I think you need to look at that. I have trouble with it. I struggle with it sometimes, and I got to check myself. I got to get in the Word. I got to watch some sermons, listen to some encouragement. But you guys, you can do it. All you got to do is ask for Jesus to help. Let's not dance on non-Christians' graves. It's not a good idea. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on me. So, with that, I think it's time to call it a show. Thanks for being here. Can't wait to see you on the next episode. We have got a couple of interviews coming up in the next few weeks that are going to be great. But get out there, drink up, and be blessed. See you next time, guys.